Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Over.
Yeah, and on that note, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Super2. Joining me today is the one and only Steph-Zaxabiz.
I am eating a pizza.
Yay.
It's the same one from last week.
Steve, you're ruining the illusion.
Or maybe I just like eating week-old pizza.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, Steve, what are we here to talk about tonight?
Today we're here to talk about the Prince of all Saiyans, Vegeta.
Who's technically not the Prince of all Saiyans.
That is my favorite thing about him. That he is technically the king, and he will never admit it because he's fucked up in the head about the fact that his Saiyan race got blown up.
Well, why don't you take us off that little path first, then?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Vegeta's really interesting. He's arguably the most well-defined character in all of Dragon Ball Z, and he's the one with the biggest character arc through Z, probably. But one of my favorite things about Vegeta, and the thing that always made me love him, is that even as a kid, I was like, okay, he keeps saying Prince of Saiyans, and then he keeps saying how his dad's dead. He's the king of Saiyans. Why won't he call himself the king of Saiyans? And then over time, I got into this whole thing about like how part of this might be that he's got the Saiyan pride thing, and the Saiyan pride mixed in with the fact that he's meant to be royalty, that there's a way in which he's growing up to become king, that his dad is King Vegeta, he's got the same name, he had Planet Vegeta, he lost both his father and his planet, and that sort of pride that he's holding on to is at the same time stubborn and at the same time unearned because his race got extinguished by Frieza, who is not even a Saiyan. It makes him on some level, because he feels the need to constantly prove how strong he is, it's a way to compensate for the fact that he didn't earn to be king. That he didn't grow up and get stronger and become king. All he can do is get stronger, and he will forever be that lonely prince that doesn't have any power because his planet blew up.
Now, do you think that, like, the Prince of all Saiyans, like, always saying that is intentional, or do you think that's just, like, Toriyama just likes the sound better?
No, it's totally just like the sound. Like, it sounds so much cooler than King of all Saiyans. It sounds so much better. But I don't care. We're post-structuralist, postmodernists. I'm going to say it's a deep thematic thing. No, it's almost entirely because it sounds cool.
Toriyama is the king of the death of the author. He so lets everybody else do the legwork for him. It's hilarious. No, I agree. I think Vegeta does have the most well-defined and most interesting character arc in all of the Dragon Ball arc. It's weird because it's not... Like, I feel like Toriyama has a similar thing to, like, Stephen Moffat, where he really only knows one good story, but he knows it really well. Like, what do all these characters have in common? Piccolo, Tien, Vegeta. Name another Dragon Ball villain. Boo.
Boo. Cell.
Cell is the exception. Cell and Frieza are the exceptions here. But they're all friends with Goku now. Yamcha, friend of Goku, started off as a shitty villain, but still. Oolong. Shitty villain, but still. Even Bulma shot him in the head, goddammit.
Well, she was scared before she was a villain.
Still, like, Goku has a tendency to make friends with people who try to kill him.
It's true.
And, like, it's... So, Toriyama's very, very clearly good at just, writing this kind of character that goes through this arc and becomes a good guy. But at the same time, when you know how to do it, you know how to do it well, you know how to do it, you know how to do it well.
It's true.
Like, and I think Vegeta gets, like, the most exploration because it takes him the longest to get away from that part of himself. Like, for a while it seems like it's going to be Piccolo. Like, Piccolo has this whole thing with when he kills Goku, he's doing it both for his own vengeance, but also to save the planet and all that stuff. And, like, there's this unspoken thing that now him and Goku are just even. And... like, Vegeta takes a long-ass time to get to that same place.
Yeah,
and that's really interesting. So, like...
it takes him a long time to get there, and it takes him a long time to admit that he's gotten there.
Mm-hmm. And, like, that's kind of the thing with Super's first story arc, that, like, there's one particular line I really, really don't like, particularly because, you know, we're after Boo now. Right. Wherein Beerus asks Vegeta what his relationship is to Goku, and Vegeta says something to the effect of, "We are enemies, but we have declared a truce." I'm like, no, you're not anymore. You're very clearly not anymore. I would say you are not even close to enemies middle of the Android arc, before Vegeta gets his ass handed to him. Like... by Android 18, not just by Cell, by Android 18.
Sorry, I just want to interject real quick. As a child, the image of Android 18 kicking Vegeta's arm and it snapping and him going out is scarred me. Like, it's just the most terrifying, painful thing in that show.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like...
it's the most brutal injury, honestly.
It's hard to be a Vegeta fan, because he gets
really
freaking tossed, man.
Like, damn, that hand just twists and he doesn't know what to do with himself. It's so sad.
Yeah, it's up there with Spokovich kicking the shit out of Videl.
Oh, that's so sad. That's just pathetically sad.
Mm-hmm. But no, like, I really, really did not like that line from Super. Particularly after the Boo arc, where, like, he finally admits that Goku's just a better fighter than him all around. Like, you know, it's like, oh, I can go Super Saiyan 3. Oh, just rub it in, why don't you? Like, that's just where he's at. He's, you know, he has that really, really great fight as Majin Vegeta against Goku, and then when he finds out that Goku could go Super Saiyan 3, he's just like, I never stood a fucking chance. That's a really interesting character place, and he's kind of just accepted that Goku's his better, and that, you know, he's his friend now because they've got a friendly rivalry going and they're pushing each other. That's the whole point of what he comes up with at the end of the Boo arc. Like, yeah, Goku yeah, Goku might be smarter than him or stronger than him, but Vegeta is clearly the better strategist. Like, it's Vegeta that comes up with a plan to defeat Majin Buu, for Christ's sake. You know, there's a lot that goes into that. I don't like that he tells Beerus we're enemies, but have a truce. I'm like, no, you're very clearly not. That is a line in Super that bugs the crap out of me.
Super's depiction of Vegeta in general is kind of all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
There are things about that first arc that are really good. There are things about it that are really regressive, and then there's just the whole notion of who Vegeta is by the end of Boo does not necessitate the show going forward the way it does, so you have to, on some level, regress him in order to keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
and this is where GT does it a little bit better, only insofar as Vegeta's only relevant to the plot when they absolutely need him.
Yeah, and it's just interesting, and we talked about this when we did the GT video. It's interesting that he is the biggest villain in that show against his will. That's really, really cool.
I agree.
That is a great place to take him. All right, so what else can we talk about with Vegeta here? I
kind of want to start just at the beginning because, like, Vegeta's arc in general is probably the best thing about Dragon Ball as a franchise, story-wise at least. I mean, there's cool superficial things too, like Super Saiyan, but at the very beginning with Vegeta and his relationship to Frieza and like how. Like, I figured out Vegeta was a really great character when Goku arrives to fight Frieza for the first time. And Vegeta has that whole, like, plea to him about what Frieza did to him and why he turned out this way, and it's the saddest thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really great scene, and even when you get to like Team 4-Star and they're having a parody of it and everything, it's still a really touching scene. There, it's like that scene almost transcends any level of parody because it's just so damn emotional.
That and History of Trunks when Gohan dies. They did that in Team 4-Star too. I'm like, this is still really sad.
Yeah. There's no way to really make that funny. Like, I get a laugh at his last words being, "Oh my god, you're the last remaining Saiyan," but still, it's got this like real heart behind it, and that's really intrinsic to the character, and it raises an interesting question about him. Dorkly does their little like parody animations and stuff, and they have one where Vegeta gets drunk at a party.
Oh my god!
And he says to Goku, he's like, "You know how everybody hates Hitler? Well, I did the math, and I'm like 50 Hitlers." And that's not a point I'd ever really thought about, but like, yeah, one of the first times we see Vegeta, he blows up a planet. And I don't know if that's still considered...
Kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't know if that's still considered canon, but, he apparently did that, like, a lot. Is it weird that we're able to sympathize with and forgive Vegeta for all the horrible things he'd done in the past?
I think on some level we are, because Vegeta operates on very different rules than someone say like Hitler. Were like the way Dragon Ball as a unit, which by the way, no one ever thought to think, let's revive all the innocent peoples that died by the Saiyans' hands, or let's revive the Saiyan. No one ever thinks to do these with the Dragon Balls, really.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, fuck. Anyway, I think it's just a matter of like, on a fictional level, we're more okay with this because we're talking about people that we can't even really comprehend in any sort of real way. We're like, it's almost like the image of God thing. We're like, why is God the way we define it? It's because we take everything we think we can do and extend it to the most inconceivable realm possible, and that's kind of what the Saiyans are. So it's that sort of like, well, why does no one hold God accountable for all the horrible shit he does? Partly complexity of religion, but also partly because there's a certain degree of it that you just can't conceive of because of how powerful they are, and that sort of fictional barrier with Vegeta sort of helps them. That's a really meta way to escape out of it, but I think it's there.
I mean, that's fair. It raises a question, though, like, could Darkseid have a redemption arc?
No, he's literally evil. Literally evil. I don't mean that in any figurative sense. No, he is literally the personification of evil.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, he's done all these All right, like, fine. Can Red Skull have a redemption arc in the comics? Like,
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I think he could. I mean, it doesn't make it. He's more different in that he's literally a Nazi. But even then, I think you could do something where, like, okay, he realizes he's a Nazi, and being Nazis is bad, and it's not an opinion we should allow people to have. So let's stop being a Nazi.
Okay, fair enough. No, I just like it's this interesting question of like what we're willing to forgive in fiction. And yeah, of course we can forgive Vegeta because he didn't kill any real people. But it is this question of like, wow, when you phrase it like that, I understand why people don't like Vegeta as a character, because he was like the biggest bad guy that the show had ever faced until that point. King Piccolo was wreaking havoc and chaos on Earth, blah, 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 but, like, he didn't kill thousands of people that we saw, at least. No, I take that back, because Roshi says he did. Damn it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I always forget about that. But, there's just, like, all this random stuff from, like, he doesn't quite do that here and there. It's like, he's this big, gigantic threat. We see him blow up the planet, and yet over seasons we're able to forgive and empathize and understand him. And then there's like a lot of regression with him from time to time, and that gets kind of weird.
Yeah, Vegeta, him as a character is at his best by the end, from like his introduction up to the fight with Cell. Not in that that's the best of where the show is, because I think the Boo arc is really good, despite a lot of bad stuff sprinkled throughout. But the way he sort of goes from ultimate bad guy, shown mercy, facing Frieza, to forcibly kind of staying on Earth with everyone else, that line works. Like, that's a map, that's a plan. And then by the end of the Cell fight, it gets kind of wonky, where, like, him caring about Trunks is kind of random, and even more so in relation to, like, maybe he should have cared more about Trunks to begin with.
I don't know. See, I think that moment where he gets enraged and defends Trunks and all that stuff, I think that really functions for me because it is on this primal level of just, that's my son.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to remember who talked about it, but, like, I remember hearing this discussion of once you have a kid, it is just this primal, deep thing to feel for that kid. And it's like, it's not even anything that you can really explain. Like, you can try to emotionally distance yourself from it, but it's this really deep connection that you have. And so I think that kind of puts ththings into a different light.
That's fair. And I mean, I like using that as the more humanistic term for Vegeta. I know there's been lots of discourse about, like, how is it too much for Vegeta to say he's going to give up fighting at the end of the Cell arc, or is that exactly where it should have gone? I tend to think that's exactly where it should have gone. But I don't know. Apparently, as time's gone on, people have said that was a mistake.
I didn't like the idea of him giving up fighting after the Cell arc. I did not like the notion that that's what was going to happen. It's this weird thing because I think without question his best character moment is in the whole thing with Babidi and accepting the help from the evil. You know, like thinking that he needed that edge back, that whole thing. That's just like a really defining moment, and for him to go, it's almost like his entire arc gets reduced down to a mini arc again in the Boo saga, and I really, really like that. It lays it all on the table again for him. He makes a mistake and then comes back from it as a better person, and I really, really enjoy that about it.
Well, and this is where, because the movies aren't very good in general. Battle of the Gods is probably the best by far, but in general, the movies are just there for like 15 minutes of story, 30 minutes of action, if not more so. But in both Broly and BoJack Unbound, because Broly is supposed to, technically, whatever this really means in Dragon Ball Z, is supposed to take place in that week they have before the Cell games. And BoJack Unbound is supposed to take place right in between the Teenage Gohan stuff and after Cell's been defeated thing. And in BoJack Unbound, Vegeta decides to fight back against BoJack despite not wanting to do anything for the most of that movie, and him wanting to come and fight doesn't make any sense. It just sort of happens. And in Broly, it's more of he's entirely in awe by Broly's power and sort of
he's so cool, but he's so dumb.
That was the best way to take that movie. He's so cool, but he's so dumb.
No, I agree. It's funny. Like I wrote the Broly movie. I don't know if you knew this. I wrote the Broly movie when I was about 12 years old. Because I had a Vegeta action figure and I had a bunch of the other Trunks and everybody action figures, and I had a Broly action figure that I didn't know was Broly. I thought it was like some kind of future Trunks. And I had a bunch of Dragon Balls, and I had the Saiyans gather Dragon Balls and wished that Planet Vegeta was back, and Vegeta went to go be king of it, but then there was this other Super Saiyan that fought him. So I don't know like if they had cameras in my home, but I wrote the Broly movie when I was 12.
You independently came to the most controversial thing in the franchise, which is Broly. Congratulations.
You're welcome.
If that's not a metaphor for your existence.
No, it's the stupidest fucking premise for a movie, but Broly's so cool. And
so dumb,
that
but it's so
on every conceivable level, that should have been Vegeta's movie. On every... if anything was right with the universe, Vegeta should have been the one to defeat Broly. And he's robbed of it in the most bullshit way with the stupid fucking spirit bomb. And it shouldn't exist. And I guess the only way he technically gets redemption is with Trunks and Goten defeating Bio Broly. Christ.
Bio Broly is the worst in that series. I don't think Broly's Second Coming is that bad, mostly in that it's nothing. It's literally nothing. Broly just shows up and people fight. It's the most nothing movie in that series, but it's less boring than Bio Broly, at least.
Yeah.
But no, anyway, in relation to Vegeta, we're like, I feel like you could more... There is a more appropriate way to map Vegeta deciding to give up fighting to the stuff you get with Majin Vegeta later with those movies, in particular the sort of like Goku breaks literally the rules of the universe to at least throw a punch at Bojack. And it takes Vegeta the whole movie to get there because of what happened with Cell, but also thinking about Vegeta's psychology in that he knows he is utterly no match for Cell no matter what by the time the Cell games are happening, and then he's facing Broly, and then like the sort of metaphors, the way they align themselves in the timeline given those two movies are really interesting and really help that case for Vegeta deciding to give up fighting as an overreaction and then wanting his edge back in the Majin stuff, but it's just not how that series works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. And I've still never watched BoJack. I don't know what to think of that one.
It's entertaining. I really like the premise of the tournament in that movie.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I get all over the place, and like, yeah, he definitely does reach a character moment where he's like, I've been bested not only by Goku but by his son.
Yeah.
And the only argument I can make for that is, well, he does really, really emphasize the fact that not only Goku has surpassed him, but Gohan had as well during that fight that those two have.
Well, and I think also more so along the lines of like, not only are Goku and Gohan stronger than he is, but what Goku and Gohan have, Vegeta up to that point has done his best to implicitly or explicitly or not replicate that, and he still doesn't have it. That even his son isn't Gohan, and even his wife isn't Chi-Chi, and the thing that makes the Goku, Vegeta can't have as Vegeta.
Mm-hmm.
And him like taking all of that and boiling it down to, fine, I just give up, I won't do anything anymore, is a very Vegeta reaction to me.
See, I don't know. I feel quite the opposite. I feel like Vegeta just trains 10 times harder. And I feel like the defining character thing for Vegeta is that he always thinks he's reached the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Like, I'm obviously really behind in Super, but like, they're getting ready for the
Limit Breaker thing?
No, the tournament with Champa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Universe 6.
Yeah, and Goku says, oh, well, we should go use the time chamber to train. And Vegeta straight up says, from what I can tell, we've reached the limits of our abilities. I'm like, you always think that way, man. Every time you reach a new level, you always think that.
It's very appropriate that the new form is called Limit Breaker.
And see, I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet, but I really think that's interesting that always, whenever Vegeta achieves new form, when he gets to when he's fighting Frieza and he keeps getting more and more powerful than he'd ever thought possible before, I must be a Super Saiyan, and I must be the strongest now, and a Super Saiyan can defeat Frieza, so I'm a Super Saiyan, so I can defeat Frieza. Slap to the side, curb stop. Goes to fight the androids, is just trashes 19, is about to do the same thing to 20, but then 17 and 18 shows up, thinks, well, now I am a Super Saiyan, nothing can beat a Super Saiyan, so I'm going to beat the fuck out of these two androids. Gets his ass handed to him. Goes straight in the fucking hyperbolic time chamber, realizing that there must be something more than Super Saiyan. Gets there, doesn't fucking get the lesson yet that there's still always more. Goes to fight Cell, trashes Cell. Cell says, oh, wait, let me just get stronger. He's like, oh, yeah, totally, because you're never going to be as strong as me. lets Cell get stronger, gets trashed by Cell, and this just keeps happening over and over and over again. Every time that he thinks he is at the pinnacle of power, someone comes along and does better than him. Whereas Goku, very early on, learned the lesson, there's always someone stronger than you out there. And so he never stops going for it. And I think that is the relation between them. It's like, no matter how strong Goku gets, he always thinks that there's someone out there stronger than him, and he's always right. Whereas the way Vegeta thinks, he always thinks he's at the pinnacle of strength.
Well, see, you say that, and then again it makes me think, well, yeah, and this ties into the whole Vegeta never earned the title of king thing, so he keeps wanting to call himself Prince. He can't think of... He knows the next step, and that's the final step, but he doesn't want to take it there, so instead he reconciles that into his training. But then, again, given the way the Cell event unfolded, I could completely see him saying, okay, Gohan and Goku have reached the pinnacle of power, and now there's no reason for me to.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just another weird thing we have where I feel like everything you say, I'm going to interpret as the exact opposite of how you're interpreting it.
Maybe, that's fair. I feel like that where he has to go at that point in the series is he can either quit, which is, I feel, the original intention, or he can, keep trying to just match. And I don't know, it creates an interesting dynamic between him and Goku, where Goku always is striving for more and Vegeta's always one step behind, and I think that makes Whis an interesting character, because he's like sitting there, like he straight up says, oh, well, if you could just surpass this one thing, then you wouldn't lag behind Kakarot anymore, and Vegeta's like, that is my crack, son.
Yeah, Vegeta having a teacher is a really unique thing. That was probably one of the smartest ideas Super has as its premise of just Goku and Vegeta are now basically what Krillin and Goku were with Master Roshi. They're constantly training, and Vegeta's a very different type of student than Goku is, and that's a thing we've legit never seen before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it just creates more interesting things in their dynamics, since both of them are always trying to, surpass one another. Like, Goku says he's only trying to get stronger. There's a little bit rubbing his nose in Vegeta's face. He is a little proud that he's always kind of got a one-up edge on Vegeta, even though he's never won a fight against him.
Well, when he comes out of Hyperbolic Time Chamber as full power Super Saiyan during the Cell stuff, Goku asks Vegeta asks if he's stronger than him, and Goku's like, "Oh yeah, I'm far above you," and he just smiles at him.
Yeah,
it's the greatest thing ever.
Troll face.
It's great. But yeah, no, it's particularly in the moment you mentioned with the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. There's a part where Goku and Vegeta are fighting to get ready for that tournament, and Goku says, every time I fight you, I see more and more of what I'm doing wrong. And Vegeta doesn't say that out loud, but he says in his head the exact same thing, and I think that's fascinating. That Goku relishes in that every fight with Vegeta is a moment to get stronger, and Vegeta agonizes about the fact that every time he fights Goku, he knows how weak he is.
Yeah. It's really fascinating the way that these two like feed off one another to the point where they just keep becoming stronger because of the other, and I think that makes their fusion so interesting. Like,
oh god, yes.
Is it Supreme Kai or whatever, the old Kai, whatever it is, who says something to the effect of their rivalry has made their fusion even more powerful?
Yep.
I don't understand the science behind fusions at all, but I so totally buy that. Like, I buy that with everything in Gogeta, Vegeta.
Or Vegeta, yeah.
Yeah.
Gogeta's not technically canon.
Oh, yeah, true. Whatever.
That's the weird thing about that character. Anyway.
Well, I mean, he's very similar. Like, he's cocky son of a bitch.
That's the weird thing, right? Because Gogeta in Fusion Reborn is nothing like Vegito or Gogeta Super Saiyan 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, I don't know if they have a definitive writing style for who Gogeta is, but I don't care because I think Vegito's better.
Yeah, Vegito's cool as shit.
I love Vegito. Vegito Blue is the best part of that entire awful Zamasu arc.
Okay, I'm interested to see when that happens, but like, I don't know, Vegito's just such a freaking badass. Like, he fought Boo as a piece of candy, for Christ's sake.
Not any ordinary candy, a jawbreaker.
Right?
The toughest candy there is.
Somewhere in the universe, there was an Ed and Eddie fan fiction that crossed over with DBZ because of this one episode.
Oh God!
The boys finally got a quarter, and they used it on the Jawbreaker machine, and then Sentient Vegito Jawbreaker came out, and they never got their Jawbreaker because he flew away to go fight Majin Buu.
They did get their jaw broken. It's poetry. It rhymes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. Vegito as a character is fascinating. There's Vegito and Gogeta. There's a fan theory that wants to say that Gogeta is the more Goku-dominated one, Vegito is the more Vegeta-dominated one. I can see that to a certain extent with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, and to a certain extent with how cocky Vegito is, but like at the same time, Vegito as that sort of perfect balance between Goku and Vegeta, where like he's super cocky, but then he does clever stuff like kicking Vegito's or taking Majin Buu's attack, or going Super Saiyan when he needs to, or concentrating Majin Buu into his body in specific areas so he could beat the shit out of him. It's that sort of perfect balance of like, if only Goku and Vegeta learned from each other instead of trying to beat the crap out of each other, they would be literally the most powerful character in that series.
Definitely. I agree. And like, it's such a fucking cheat that like they separated inside Boo. I will never forgive that. If anything should have lasted, it should have been that.
Wait till you get to Superman. Wait till you get to Super. Wait for the retcon to ruin all retcons.
Damn it. All right. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see how those two interact. And it's funny because we've done an episode on Goku, we've done an episode on Vegeta. I'm tempted to go back and listen to the episode on Goku now and see how many of the same points we're making. Because I feel like these two characters are so fundamentally tied together, even though Toriyama really didn't want to write either of them as the main character for a good section of his stuff. These two are so fundamentally tied together now, it's almost impossible in my mind to talk about one without the other.
Well, the coolest thing about that is like when you see who Goku is all the way through Dragon Ball, and then at the start of Dragon Ball Z, even up to Raditz and stuff, and then you see Vegeta, and Vegeta's almost a mustache-twirling villain. I mean, like, there's very little, if anything, redeemable about him at all as a person. And he's completely monstrous, and he's the exact opposite of Goku. And even still, both of them look at each other, and the only thing they see is their similarities, which is why they want to beat the shit out of each other.
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally agree. It's a really interesting dynamic. He is one of the best foils for a character I think we've ever seen. Like, again, Toriyama seems to only know how to do one story as far as villains are concerned, but man, what a story. Like, I really feel like there's a reason that, Boo joined, but like not really. Like, he's just there hanging out with Mr. Satan. He's not really one of the group, it feels like. Whereas Vegeta's where he really figured out how to perfect that arc for a character and really started to get some mileage out of it, where it's like, will he, won't he kind of thing. Well,
and Vegeta does a thing that Piccolo never had to worry about, Yamcha never had to worry about, Boo never had to worry about. None of those characters did, except for Vegeta, where Vegeta being included in the group necessarily causes every other character to have different reactions to him. Bulma marries the guy, Yamcha hates him, Piccolo doesn't trust him, Krillin's afraid of him. Like, all the characters that had very natural reactions to him when they first met maintain those reactions as he gets more and more more and more in line with him.
Mm-hmm. And it's also important that he served the very necessary function of giving us someone that could keep up with Goku after all these power boosts. Because, I mean, I know I've heard some crap about Super with, like, just giving away freebie power-ups to the human characters who are just completely outclassed at this point, but whatever.
That's a problem.
For a long time in Z, Vegeta was really the only one keeping up with Goku, and that was, an important and necessary thing, and it created, in my mind, the best fight in the entire series, which is Majin Vegeta versus Goku.
My only problem with that fight is that we keep cutting away from it. I want that I want that fight uninterrupted.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably find a fan edit online.
Well, no,
somewhere.
and I've seen that, but like even still, like Goku and Vegeta's first fight is uninterrupted. I want Vegeta and Goku's second fight to be uninterrupted. Hell, I think at some point when Super ends, their last like 7 episodes need to just be an uninterrupted Goku and Vegeta fight. Just do that for me once, and give me an actual ending.
Yeah,
Even
I
with Vegeta winning.
Yeah, I think all the Goku and Vegeta fights are some of the best stuff. Like, they just... Man, those two just really go at each other. It's great.
And it's always the conflict you care most about, where, like, Goku and Vegeta's tension with each other isn't present for most of the Android and Cell stuff, which is fine, because it doesn't hurt that as material. But even then, they have to make up for it with how interesting Trunks is, and the androids and all that. We're like, when Goku and Vegeta are the focus, it doesn't matter how bad everything else is. When Goku and Vegeta aren't, everything else has to step it up a lot. Mm-hmm. Like Super right now, from the beginning, it's not the best show. It's kind of boring, but it doesn't matter half the time because Goku and Vegeta are the best part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, Super having Vegeta get to Super Saiyan Blue without the whole God ceremony.
It's the coolest thing.
I really do feel like that is his biggest achievement, and that is something that he can always hold over Kakarot, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that is just a great moment that the character really needed. It would have been better if he actually got to defeat Frieza on his own instead of the whole rewind thing, but what the fuck ever. He beat
annoying.
Frieza in spirit. Bullshit. He really deserved that. He earned that at that point, and we still got a middle finger on that one.
That ending bothers me because Goku's like, if we worked together, everything would work out just fine. Like, no, either one of you could have solved this problem on your own. It just so happens that you didn't.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. It's hard out here for a Vegeta fan.
See, and that's
really
the thing Super's been doing a lot with people is that they keep giving Vegeta things and they keep taking things away from him. We're like, Vegeta has cool moments in the originals, in the Battle of the Gods arc, but then it becomes entirely about Goku and Beerus. And then Resurrection F has what you mentioned with Vegeta losing his win at the end. Tournament of Power, you get Goku getting Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, and Vegeta to this point has nothing on that yet. There's no... At this point in that show, it's been like not almost, but like it's been almost twice the number of episodes since Vegeta saw that transformation, and he still has no way of countering it, or if he's found it, they've never told us. So by now, Goku's probably 10 times stronger than him. Goku's about to get a new form, and we aren't doing anything with Vegeta. Now it's entirely just they can fight each other and they're on par, except they're not. Goku now can go back and forth between Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Blue. I don't know if Vegeta can. He can in the manga, but the manga's very different, so I don't know. It's weird.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know either. It's it is a unique thing, definitely. All right, let's go ahead and talk here. What is your recommended, since we did this with Goku, what is your recommended arc if you're going to talk about, like, this is the Vegeta arc to watch?
This is the Vegeta arc to watch.
Like, if you're going to say watch one saga of the show, what saga are you going to recommend?
I'm going to steal yours and say watch everything from the World Martial Arts Tournament to Goku and Vegeta's Majin fight.
Yeah, that's a really, really good one. Thanks, Steve.
It's probably the best those two have ever been written.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll go with the Saiyan arc. I really, really like just how damn just on every level he outclasses Goku. Goku does not win that fight.
No.
Fucking Yajirobe does, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as maybe a close second for both of us, the Kid Buu arc, where Goku and Vegeta's dialogue in that is fantastic, but also Vegeta's both fear and willingness to take on Boo despite how outclassed he is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. That is that whole thing of like the warrior spirit kind of thing that Vegeta has going for him.
Yeah, the whole like I need 1 minute in hell kind of thing happening there. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Let's talk about favorite Vegeta design real quick.
Pink shirt.
Pink shirt.
Pink shirt Vegeta's the greatest thing ever.
Oh, it was hard out here for a Vegeta fan, man. I remember having to defend the pink shirt.
It looks good on him. I don't care what anyone says. It looks really good on him.
I know. Oh man, I kind of agree, but like 13-year-old me, so they're like, no, it's not gay. Shut up. Is still like shouting in the back of my brain. Favorite
design.
I don't know. I'm probably gonna go with God, I really like a lot of the early stuff. Call me crazy. I miss the shoulder pads, man. The shoulder pads were my shit. Yeah, I like the shoulder pads. I like a lot about the Saiyan Vegeta.
Mine's gonna be a toss up between. I like his black Whis train Saiyan armor. I think that looks really good. I just think most things look better in black, but still. I like that a lot, and I don't care what anyone says. I like what he looks like in Dragon Ball GT. Not counting the mustache, but I like that shirt and I like the jeans and everything. I like Vegeta wears skinny jeans.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So next week we are beginning Horror Month here on Geeky Gentlemen, and I was trying to think what to do for characters. I think we're just going to go with icons in horror. And so for our first episode next time, we will be talking about the Crypt Keeper.
I knew you'd go for that one at some point. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it should be. So everybody strap in for just all the puns next week. Oh. Anyway, until then, I'm the Philosopher.
And I am the Exile.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.